welcome to LoveCast BL podcast reviews, where today we're going to be reviewing the Taiwanese series Kiseki, Dare to Be. I'm your host Pixie, and with me are my fellow hosts Alexa, Kayla, and Heather. Full crew! Yay!
Hello.
Okay. So the synopsis, and just a warning because I'm gonna butcher these names. So fair warning. Bai Song Yi, an exemplary student with dreams of becoming a doctor, is unexpectedly drawn into the world of an injured gangster named Fan Se Hui. This unexpected encounter disrupts their tranquil routines and sends their lives into a whirlwind. Their initial awkwardness gradually gives way to familiarity and eventually blossoms into a heartfelt connection. Just as their love story begins to unfold, Fan Se Rui's criminal past catches up with them. So there's 13 episodes with 14th behind the scene episode on Viki. They're about 25-30 minutes each and available on iQIYI and Viki.
Yes.
I'm pretty
That is,
keen.
by the way, the first time I've done an intro to a review. Just saying.
I'm pretty keen for this one. It was in my top BLs of 2023. Plug, go watch that because that's probably going to have more better formed thoughts than today. Apologies. But yeah, I'm excited that this one got chosen by the patrons. Just saying.
Yeah. We were talking little bit beforehand, and I really, really like it, but I do also see some issues. But I do think, like, watching and reading yaoi for such a long time that I've sort of become I don't get as bothered by things that might bother people because I'm so used to the tropes. But I noticed them.
Yeah. I struggle with age gap romances where one of the people is still a minor. So this one was a little tough for me because I was very aware of the fact that he was in fact 17 for a large chunk of their relationship. So I feel like that made it hard for me to kind of get into the main character's romance, but I did end up really vibing with the secondary characters after there's like a certain scene that happened which I can talk about later where I kind of like clicked with ID as a character, and like I feel like I was definitely able to connect with him and thus their like romantic connection, but I definitely, just for me personally, I struggled with the main character's romance.
Honestly, I thought the age gap was the least serious problem the series had. Like, I honestly forgot. Like, that, I mean, it's hard to ignore that part, but I felt like it wasn't that relevant compared to some of the other critiques that I had about the show.
I get that. I think one of the moments that it rubbed me sort of the wrong way with the age gap, like in general, I didn't notice it that much because I wasn't thinking much about it. But when he was literally in school and the other guy was his
Undercover
teacher.
Yeah.
That was like it you're sort of crossing a line. I know he was like a pretend teacher, but at the same time, like, okay, you're sort of crossing a line there. I feel like the whole show was like balancing on this gray line throughout. Just like, ooh, are we like, it can be discussed if it's going over the line or not, but yeah.
That's so funny. I recognize all of the crossing the line, like towing the line type of things that the show had and gave us. However, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. Even though like the age gap is gapping, even though we've got like some questionable things that happen before relationships develop, even though we've got a very short moment of like this teacher student ish fantasy going on. I just really enjoyed the series and I enjoyed everything that happened in it, even though there are definitely a few things that I would have liked to have seen either done better or just changed slightly. But overall, I don't know what it is about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I seriously cannot explain exactly what it is about it, but I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the factor that makes me enjoy it is probably because of the writer, Lin Pei-yu, who also did We Best Love. She also did the history for both of them, I think. Didn't she?
Wait, History 3 or History 4?
No, History 3.
I was gonna say History 4 was
yeah, History 4 was not it.
Yeah.
Okay, History 3. I meant History 3. So she definitely did the one where we don't accept the last episode. Well, I don't accept the last episode.
Or any of it.
I know we don't agree on that. Did she do the other one too?
The Tooth Your Love,
like literally crossing the lines. Crossing the line. Isn't that
History Trapped?
Oh, trapped.
Crossing the line.
Okay.
Crossing the line. Yeah.
I'm getting them mixed up in my head.
So she did like a lot of the history.
She did all the good history series. Yeah. But if you think about Make Our Days Count, especially, like there's a questionable relationship there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, she's very old school, but I think there's something in her writing that doesn't make me think that she oversteps it. There's something about how they interact and how things get pushed forward that doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. Because like History 4, the writer of that was uncomfortable to me. Like the whole show was super uncomfortable. I didn't like it at all, and that was very old school yaoi plot. But there's just something about how she writes the show that doesn't, like, the red flags don't start flagging. I don't.
It's like it's not even explained. It's like the shows are aware of the tropes that they're working within, and they have this kind of this self-awareness a little bit while working within the trope. So during apologies, during Kiseki, like they acknowledge this age gap. They acknowledge that this is something that shouldn't be happening, and that tension builds and builds and builds and builds until something does happen. But like it's acknowledged, and he tries not to go further. He physically removes himself from the situation to make sure it doesn't happen,
escalate,
go further. But then so I don't know, there's just like this self-awareness within the trope that seems to come across with her work that I really enjoy.
I mean, I'm just a Lin Pei-yu fangirl, so I don't think I can be objective here at all. So, what were some issues, do you guys think?
We're starting straight with issues? Okay.
you guys are all talking about the content, but everything I didn't like was technical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
Like, I don't know how to say this and not sound mean. The acting, ugh.
Mm.
The production quality, like I don't know how else to say it. Like,
I
I feel like Taiwanese BLs are so unserious. Like, anything could happen and you just have to accept it. And
Right.
sometimes, like in the instance of history, you could kind of consider that camp.
Yeah.
But I feel like the way they did it, the way they executed this premise was unserious but not on purpose. Like, it kind of reminded me of like the Taiwanese version of Golden Blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could not take it seriously. You guys, I couldn't take it seriously. Um uh I don't know. Like, I think the premise is really interesting. I really think it's just the way they executed it, and like I never knew what was going on. Like,
Mm.
I didn't know if we were in present time, if we were in the
Yeah.
past. I
That
didn't
was
know like
confusing.
when the time was skipping forward, when we
Mm.
were like I really never knew like where we were exactly in the story, which
Yep.
made the plot very difficult for me to follow. Like, I did not understand what was happening until like 7 episodes in.
Yeah. I do think like the first scene where we see them coming out of jail was so unnecessary because it
I
lent
didn't get it.
nothing to what you were seeing afterwards. It was just confusing because it takes such a long time until you get to that point that there's nothing happening that hint towards okay, what was going on there. So it didn't do anything for the story. Like, I forgot that that even happened by the point that it was happening.
Whereas I disagree because I feel like we needed the beginning to kind of have you think like, oh, why were they in jail? So like you have that beginning, you've got them coming out of jail, so you've got that little okay, well, something's happened to put them in there. We're going to see what's going to happen to get them there. But then you start with this romance and you realize that the person who was in jail wasn't actually the gangster. Well, it was one of the gangsters, but like the other guy of the main couple, it's not the gangster that's in jail. It's this like schoolboy who ends up in jail. And then you're like, all right, well, what the hell happened here? So I feel like that kind of kept me I always had that in the back of my brain that like, all right, well, this kid's going to go to jail. So what the hell
How do
happened?
you get
When did
there?
it happen?
Yeah.
How are we getting there when it's not the gangster that's in jail? And so I feel like that beginning scene kept me interested. Like it stayed in the back of my brain as I was watching the series through.
Mm. That's fair. I was just annoyed because I didn't understand anything of it.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't even realize they were getting out of jail.
I was
right, like
I
it was
didn't even
very
realize what was happening.
confusing. And I didn't realize that the second one was like the blonde guy because he
Right.
hadn't his hair wasn't blonde in that clip.
Yeah.
It's brown. So I was just like, what is even happening here? Yeah.
I do think that the showing the flashback or the past and the present could have been done a bit better, whether that was utilizing some form of filter or literally putting on the screen something that shows like a time jump or I don't know, a transition, like an actual whoosh transition or something. Probably not a whoosh transition, but you get what I mean. Something that actually showed the jumps between past and present. But I don't remember being super confused watching. I was a little bit confused and then I recognized what they looked like in the past and what they looked like in the future. And then I was just, it would take me a second to catch up when they would switch between, but I was able to kind of follow it. But
Yeah,
I don't know if that's because I was so engaged with the story.
I wasn't too thrown off by the timelines. I think understood that well enough. I was a little bit confused by like the gang politics at first. Like
Yeah.
I
I
don't
was
get it.
really confused with like Chen Yi and the boss, because like the first time he met the boss, he was like, "Call me dad," and I was like, "Okay." So he was like the son of this gang leader, and then they went back, and ID was like, "Oh, you have feelings for the boss," and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" So like the gang politics and like learning that like Fan Zenri is like not like part of their gang and that kind of stuff was like a little bit confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think eventually like I understood it well enough. But yeah, like in terms of the timeline, like I wasn't too bothered. I thought the premise was like fairly interesting. I was just like, for me, the romance is just like a personal thing. Like I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
anyone else enjoying like age gap romances. Like
Yeah.
I understand like both of where Heather and Pixie are coming from with that. It's just like a personal thing that I can't really like vibe with. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like the main thing that took
That's
me out
fair.
of that. But like in terms of like the premise of the story, I thought I enjoyed for the most part how it was executed. Um, and I thought like the transitions and stuff for me were fairly compelling between like the different timelines and stuff like that.
What
Yeah.
did you guys think about Bad Boy Wayne?
Honestly, he was kind of
He was
iconic.
kind of slaying.
Yeah,
He was
he,
kind of
he was
slaying.
slaying with his lollipop, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I I spoke about this in length during our top 5
Mm-hmm.
BLs of 2023 or whatever it was we called it. But the amount of cameos in this
They
series
will
made me
find
lose my
space for
mind.
every other Taiwanese BL couple to make an appearance.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like lost my mind every single time someone came up, and like the fact that Wayne and Chinchi were like, well, Chinchi was a mains, but like they were so integral to the story. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, mate, I maybe
Yeah.
that's also why I love this series so much, because like it was so nostalgic to see everyone turn up and
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
have some little cameo, and then watch Wayne be his badass self throughout the entire series. And yeah, I don't know. I had a good time.
Yeah.
Like, I know there was stuff wrong with the show at times, but like I had a good time.
Yeah.
The cameos in Taiwanese BLs are always fun to watch, and I just think it's so fun how like all of the, I mean, it's comparatively like to Thailand a much smaller BL community, so like I feel like all of
Mm-hmm.
the actors know each other and like cameo in each other's projects and like hang out with each other, and so like I just love that they have like such a little community where they're like always showing up for each other in different projects and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think it's always fun to see.
And then the
Mm-hmm.
really cool thing with this as well is that they actually did promo. All of these actors
I
did
remember seeing
promo
that. Yeah.
together for this series. What's the best thing
Mm.
ever?
It's
Like, it was
it's a
just,
good one for the Taiwanese BL fans, which I feel like Heather,
yeah,
you're always a fan of the Taiwanese BLs.
I
Mm-hmm.
am. I am. I think, yeah. I think that's very fair to say. I'm like ride or die Taiwanese BLs.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
valid 100%.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah,
I mean, the second couple was sort of giving me the same feeling. I'm saying feeling because they're not similar in any ways as the second couple in Trap. It just gave me the same feeling of watching their story as I got watching their story in
Well,
Trapped, if you know what
I
I mean.
totally get that, because
Mm.
the younger ID, so it was
ID.
ID and Chenji in
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
this series. ID reminded me of oh my god, I can't remember the the younger cop's name in Trapped, but like
Mm-hmm.
he was
Yes.
young and youthful and
Mm-hmm.
energetic, and like always there was this like,
I just
this
loved
like
ID.
cuteness to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I liked
then
him too.
Chenyi and, is it Jack? I think it's
Jack
Jack.
is one
Jack.
of them. I know
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jack is
Jack
one
is
of
the
them.
Chenyi
redhead.
and Jack. Yeah, they have this like been there, done that type of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Jaded.
they're a bit
Mature.
older, they're a little bit jaded. They
Mm-hmm.
need this like this sweetness from their partner to like mellow them out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I get that comparison, and I loved that dynamic a bit. But the one thing that I really enjoyed in this one that Trap didn't do is that ID isn't as just like sweet, innocent, fresh. Like there is this
Feisty.
like
He's
feisty side to him.
He's spicy. He's a little bit
Yeah.
spicy.
I love like the like small, like super small, like feisty person trope. Like I think those characters are always so fun. I loved his wardrobe. His outfits were amazing.
Highlight of the show.
I love the blonde hair on him. Like I just thought he was such a good, like he was my favorite character. And what really like
Same.
got me on, not on him, what really got me to like get hooked into his character was the first birthday candle scene where he was lighting the candles by himself. I feel like I just emotionally I was like, okay, now I must protect him with my life because like they gave me the tragic backstory and I'm like, okay, now I am invested in him and everything that he does. And I just liked watching him navigate like his feelings and like trying to have, what's the word I'm looking for, like later on in the story when Shenyi was kind of pursuing him, trying to like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, have his own like, I don't want to say push and pull, but I guess it was his way of like trying to protect himself from like getting hurt almost. There's a word that I'm looking for that I can't think of, but I just thought it was really
making him work for it and like justify actually being with him and like I know, I think I know the where you're going with that, but I also we can't find words.
But no, I just thought the way he worked through his feelings like from before and after prison and like kind of navigating that relationship of we grew up together and I'm in love with you, but obviously I see you having feelings for this other person. Like those kind of characters always get to me. So I feel like he was just like written to be like my character in the show.
I found it really interesting actually, that so the tragic backstory that we got with ID resonated a little bit more with me than the tragic backstory of Zongyi, Bai Zongyi. Even though Bai Zongyi and Fan Zero are the mains, the like, I don't know, that tragic like birthday candle by himself, like can't rely on the guy that said to rely on him, really got to be a bit more
always
than
being stood up.
But I did feel sorry for Zongyi when I needed to feel sorry for him, but not as much as ID. So there's just something magical about the way that second couple were written. I think they were I don't know, they felt a little more 3D in their character development.
Yes.
Like
yes.
The main couple felt a little too formulaic. And the second couple felt more rich. Like it felt like it could go either way. And and I don't know if that's just like a main couple, second couple type of thing, because that happens in quite a lot of series that like the main couple feels a bit too formulaic and the second couple's like, oh, this is fun. But yeah, that definitely did. I think that happened here in this series quite a bit.
I mean, there was a finality with the main couple's relationship once they actually got together. That I think like when you have a show that sort of goes on after their initial like romance, you sort of get you get like the main couple, they're together, accomplished, it's done. So you move on to the secondary couple because that's where the exciting, what's gonna happen there. So I think it's like it's the second lead syndrome.
I feel that like building further on what you just said, Pixie, when the main couple gets together, like, oh my god, sorry, my voice, gets together mid-series, beginning of the series, you need something to watch, to
Yeah.
push through. Like, you need something extra after they actually get together. You need that struggle. You just need something extra. And like, there was struggle with the main lead after they got together technically, but I
Yeah.
don't think it was as so, as struggly,
I
that's not
mean,
the word I want to use, but like as
it's
engaging as it could have been.
yeah. I mean, once they got together and then the whole thing happened, and he forgot. He didn't really, but you know that drama that came there. It wasn't. There wasn't. I don't think there was like any doubt of what was gonna happen. Like they were already established as soulmates, kind of thing. Um, and I don't like it. Doesn't put you on the edge, like waiting what's
Yeah.
gonna happen. Like we all knew what was gonna happen. so
Yeah.
so and
Yeah.
you sort of can't know how they're gonna resolve it. um so seeing like going to the second couple there where there's so much back and forward, and you almost get like theory of love sort of melodramatic stuff. It's more exciting. It is. So, and I have a thing like the main couple, Song Yi, he is too vanilla for me. Like as a character, I think he's too vanilla. I find him extremely boring as a character.
Me too.
So having that like spicy tiny ID makes up for that, and Chen Yi just being the stoic sad boy, it's good.
Fair. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, second couple were definitely more spicy, pun intended, with the whole spice everything that they had, and like the product placement and everything. Love. But like, I don't know, I did feel like Zongyi was, I wouldn't say vanilla, but he was very much the character that was like, I only focus on working hard so I can better my future. That is all I'm going to focus on. And so I get how that can come across as a little bit boring. He reminded that kind of drive, that kind of character reminded me a little bit of Chunchi's character in Make Our Days Count.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I am just focused.
It's a very similar archetype, yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe it was the my love for that character bleeding over into my love of this series, but like I got him, like I liked it. I liked that he was like, I'm working hard, I'm doing my thing, and all of a sudden this gangster falls into, like, crashes into my life and completely changes it. Like, I liked that, and I liked seeing his, like, I don't know, his focus change.
I understand what you're saying, but I still don't think like he changed a lot. Like his life didn't change that much if you think about it, because
He
like
went to
okay,
jail.
he's a high school kid who's very determined to get things done. Okay, so at first it's school, then then it's the cake shop, whatever. His focus is just shifted. He doesn't have like any real growth as a character, and I just think he's very one dimensional. There isn't like much complexity to him as a character. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I disagree, because like,
Yeah, that's fair.
he was working so hard to be a doctor. Then Zeru, Fanzeru, how do you say his name? Came into his life. And he ended up going to jail, and then he can't be a doctor, and so he has to like completely change what he wants out of life. And like, I don't know, maybe
He
this was
becomes a
me
baker
projecting a little
and
bit, but like I
bakes a cake.
remember when I was like 18, 19, 20-ish, and having to completely change my view of what my future looked like, and having to change what I was working towards, and like moving and studying a different well, for me it was studying a different degree, and actually having to completely change where I saw my life going in terms of like career and happiness and all that sort of stuff. And like, I'm not saying that like changing studying degrees is the same as like wanting to be a doctor, going to jail, and then deciding to have a cake shop. Like that's a different path. But just this idea of this like having to look in within yourself and confronting this idea of, well, this is what I thought my identity was, that I was going to be a doctor, that I was going to help people. Now, because of my decisions and the consequences of my decisions slash decisions of someone I've fallen in love with, has completely changed that trajectory of my life. Like, I resonated with that a little bit, and I found that interesting.
Yeah. No, I can kind of see how like maybe it feels like it didn't impact him that much because like he kind of came out of prison and was like, I'm set
Just
to
like
be a
pivoted.
baker. But I
Yeah.
also think like they kind of showed throughout the course of the show, like, I don't know, I feel like there was like significance in like cake and baking throughout the show, and them kind of showing him,
Yeah.
um, you know, how sweets are like this thing that Zeri always wants and is asking for money for, and it's an annoyance. And then he starts learning how to bake them himself, and he has all these notes that he's taking on different cakes he can make for him. And then that kind of ties into him being like, what, when I was in prison I got a baking license, and so, you know, I had this time to ruminate on, you know, he got his head injury like basically as soon as he got into prison. So I don't know, maybe it would have been different if they showed us a little bit of his time in prison. But I feel like for the trajectory of how they displayed his timeline throughout the show, like kind of like that time skip between going into prison and him coming out, you know, he did have all that time in there. So even though like we couldn't see it, I guess is maybe why it's not clicking for Pixie. I feel like, you know, he did have the time to kind of have that development and have to process changing his life plan. And then it kind of seems like he came out on the other side just like ready to do it. But also, like, he
Yeah.
is someone who is like, I feel like his personality that they introduced him with is the kind of person who would be like, okay, this thing happened. How am I going to pivot and find something else that works for me? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, for me, it's just like the character you meet at the beginning, like just ignore like careers and all of that, just like the personality and the person they are. Um, the one from the first episode is the same as the one from the last episode, for me.
I really think it has to do with the execution of it, because I think that he had character development in the sense that he kind of had to just accept his reality, and there was this whole theme of like him not looking back at the past. Like, he had to move on, and he tried to let go of the things that have happened, and I felt like that was character development. But the way it was executed, I feel like there wasn't enough shown in that time that made me empathize with him.
mm,
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't connect with his struggle.
mm,
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that Alexa made a really good point in that maybe we should have seen some of his development whilst in prison. Like, more. Maybe, like, I feel like maybe that would have helped us, I don't know, connect a little bit more with him as a character. And if we, because a lot of his stuff, a lot of his development, I guess, that really changed, um, like really helped him grow, happened off screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was one of the only characters really that had a lot of big things happen for him, like internal things happen for him off screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, as the audience, we're going to connect with what we see on screen a lot stronger than what we imagine and accept has happened off screen.
Yeah.
And so for a main character to have a lot of that development off screen is very interesting. It's an interesting way of telling the story. And so I think that kind of comes back to what you were saying, Kayla, in terms of execution. Like, that possibly should have been written in, that he had these revelations, he had these moments of growth on screen so everyone could connect with that, opposed to just like it happened in prison, or like, or here are all of these context clues that you now, once we switch to the next scene and this growth has happened, or this thing has happened, you've just got to connect the dots as the audience and imagine what's happened between that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you guys rate the show out of 5? Okay, I can start. So
I think I should go last.
like I said, I actually, like, all the issues aside, I did really enjoy watching this, and it's, no matter what the issues were and what I felt about the characters, like, I was invested, and I really thought, like, it's a good show that you'll enjoy. So I'm at a 3.5.
I don't know. I feel like my issues with the show were very personal, so I don't know if my rating is one that anyone should use to apply to their own decision. I will say, like, I feel like I'm somewhere in between like a 2.5 and a 3, just because I really did enjoy ID and his character in the second character storyline. And I think the general plot was interesting. And like, if you're not someone who has similar issues that I have with like age gaps and stuff, or or viewing it differently than I do, then I think you would probably be able to enjoy more of it than I did. But yeah, somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3. I can't settle between the two.
I think I'm gonna go with a 2 out of 5 because I'm similar to Alexa in the fact that I did not vibe with the main couple for like the same reasons. But like I said, like honestly, even that wasn't a point of contention for me. Like I said, a lot of the stuff I didn't like was like, I guess, technical, their production choices, maybe even some of the writing choices. I was like, this feels a little nonsensical, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, it wasn't bad per se. Like, I didn't dislike it, but I just, I couldn't take it seriously. I didn't connect with like anyone except for ID a little bit. Like, he was the highlight of the show for me. I really liked all of his scenes, and I gravitated towards the side couple a lot more. I will say one thing that I found interesting about the show was that everyone's gay. Like,
Yeah,
literally everyone.
The older
Gay couple was a nice touch.
The older gay couple too, like stuff like that. Like, I appreciate it, and of course, like the cameos are always funny to see. I really, this is so random, but I put it in my notes just like by itself. I love the scene when Chen Yi sends ID the gun and it has the heart sticker.
The little heart sticker, yeah.
Because I was like, wow, this is so romantic.
That's romance.
So like there were, I can't give it like a 1. That's why I say 2, because there were moments where I was like, Okay, this is kind of funny. This is iconic in a way, in its own way. But I just
Fair.
I'm mostly just meh about it. Like, I was kind of bored. I'm not gonna lie.
Fair. And then I'm all the way over here on my little lonely island saying I'm giving this like a 4.3 to 4.5 because I really enjoyed the series, and like I can excuse the slight confusion at times between past and present, and like I can excuse some of the technical things with like and also some of the writing things where a lot of stuff happened off screen and it was just kind of like assumed that you would catch up in the next scene. Like I can excuse all of that because I had such a good time watching this series. I had such a good time watching all of the cameos, watching all of the characters, like the main characters' journey. I just had such a good time in general that it's like it was a 4.5, but I think maybe I will stick it as a 4.3 because some of the technically stuff like that you guys are talking through, I'm like, oh yeah, actually, no, that is something that I was like having some trouble with at times. But I still freaking loved this series and it just kept me engaged. I remember I binged the crap out of this and it wasn't because I barely had time to watch something and I was like, I've only got today to watch things. Like I literally stayed up until I think it was like 3 a.m. watching this entire series because I was just I could not stop. I had to keep watching and watching and watching to see how the story developed, how the characters got together or didn't get together, what happened where. Like I was just so invested in this story, and I love a Taiwanese BL. We know this, so I'm in a solid 4.3.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I will
things
say
just
this.
hit
I was watching this week for week, and there was some drama. So, 1 week, I don't remember which episode. It was 7 or 8 or something. One of the next episodes got leaked.
I remember hearing about the episode leaks.
They put the episode out because it got leaked, and then we had to wait 2 weeks for the next one.
Yeah,
Everyone was just like, "Oh yeah, we got like an extra. We're gonna get the next one next week." No, they just didn't release one in 2 weeks.
Which like fair, I guess. Like if your shit gets leaked, like
yeah,
that's what you get for leaking it.
This
reminds me of when we did the review for About Youth, and I was fighting for my life against Pixie and Heather, trying to explain why I enjoyed this series so much. Like,
what do you mean? I loved About You.
You weren't on that review though, so it was just Pixie and Heather, and I was like trying to explain why I enjoyed it so much.
Oh,
and
me?
They were
yeah.
Pixie and Kayla.
I remember I didn't.
I was like, I was in the back being like, I love this.
Yeah, and I was just trying to fight for my life. But like sometimes you just like things.
Yeah. No, we all have our shows that we're like really on the bandwagon.
You can look past the things that other people can't. Like I have my shows like that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. So that's it for this month's review. Be sure to let us know what you thought about Kiseki Dare to Me down below in the comments or on our social media. Friendly reminder that all of our reviews are voted on by our patrons and they get access to watch them a month before the general public. So if you're interested in choosing which series we review next, consider joining our LoveCaster Patreon family. It's also a great way to support the podcast. Thanks for catching this month's review, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye! Did you just hit your...
Oh no.
I'm so excited to wave. I swear to God.